During the Allied campaign across France in 1944, 5 troopers of the 82nd Airborne Division are assigned to guard a chateau. En route, they ambush a German captured jeep, executing the occupants who survived the initial attack before encountering a group of Jewish refugees. They arrive at their destination, and the troops they are replacing clear out hurriedly. The paratroopers begin to settle into the chateau, only for eerie events to start happening. Chris, the group's commander, interprets a repetitive banging sound coming from the fireplace as Morse code, which Eugene transcribes as saying, "I have no legs." The squad sniper, Taggart, is on guard duty up in the attic late one night and sees the ghostly figure of a young boy suddenly appear in his sights. Frightened, he jerks back, only for the figure to promptly disappear when he checks again. Eugene later finds a journal kept by a German soldier detailing the fate of the Hellwigs, the former owners. The Germans, having discovered the Hellwigs had been sheltering Jews, brutally murdered them by burning the father alive, hanging the daughter, and drowning the son in a bathtub. As Eugene is transcribing another Morse code message, his hand moves without his volition to spell out the message, "If you leave, you die," which is repeated over the squad's radio. A report comes in on the radio that a platoon of Germans is moving through the area, and the squad attempts to make the chateau appear as if it is deserted. That night, the German unit arrives at the chateau. The squad has padlocked the door to make it appear as if the place is locked up tight, and at first it seems like the Germans will simply move on. However, suddenly a loud banging noise erupts from the chateau, and the startled Germans attack. The Americans kill most of their number, but Butchie is mortally wounded diving on a grenade. Some of the Germans successfully manage to storm into the chateau, however, and begin to spread out through the chateau to try and hunt down the paratroopers. The Americans witness some of the Germans being killed by unseen forces in the same manner as the Hellwig family. Before he dies, Butchie rants that what the men are experiencing isn't real and exhorts Chris to remember. Convinced that the building is haunted, the survivors leave only to find themselves repeating the experiences that brought them to the chateau: the ambush of the jeep, the encounter with the refugees. Believing they are cursed and that their only hope is to give the bodies of the Hellwig family a proper burial, they return to the chateau. An invisible force revealed to be the ghostly form of a woman grabs Chris and hauls him towards an outhouse where they find the Hellwig's remains. After burying the bodies, Eugene consults the diary and finds that the text is no longer German but Arabic, and that the Hellwigs were Afghan. The men are then attacked by spirits, one of which tries to drown Chris. The shock of the experience induces hallucinations before he finally snaps awake and finds himself being attended to by doctors in a futuristic hospital, surrounded by the mutilated and unconscious bodies of his comrades. Dr. Engel and his staff inform Chris that what he and his comrades had been experiencing is a simulated reality based on World War II intended to help soldiers suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Chris' memories return. He and his men are not World War II veterans, but soldiers of the present-day American military. Their final mission in Afghanistan was to evacuate a family called the Hellwigs, who had been collaborating with the Americans before an Islamic State patrol ambushed them. The men are ordered to hide by their CIA handler in a secret compartment within the walls. As the family is abused by ISIS fighters, the soldiers prepare to intervene against their orders, only for 2 more trucks full of ISIS troops to arrive outside, causing them to hesitate. The men watch as the Hellwigs were slaughtered in the manner witnessed in the simulation. As the men left, the despairing mother of the family detonated a suicide bomb and with her dying breath uttered the word Vetrulek, revealed to be an ancient curse that forces its recipients to endlessly relive their trauma. Back in the hospital, the power fluctuates, confusing the medical staff. Chris realizes that the curse is real and that the spirits of the Hellwig family now haunt the simulation that the men are experiencing. Convinced the only way to lift the curse is to confront the family, apologize, and atone for their sins. Chris explains this to the medical staff and insists asking to returns to the simulation. While the medical staff is preparing Chris' reconnection to the simulation, they are confused by the mainframe computer launching deletion of the patient memory. They shout that fact to Chris just before the countdown for sending him back announce 5 seconds to resume link to the construct. Finally, the timer reaches 0 and procedure initiate. He reawakens where his experiences began, camped out at night with his comrades as a figure watches from the shadows.